excited about this one the same way I used to get excited about old baseball cards or ancient Roman coins or other old things that I used to collect. What I've got here is a set of old generation tin whistles. Vintage, let's call them. And I want to answer a few questions, but most importantly, are the old generations better than the new ones? Let's get after it. Usual caveats before we get started here. Number one, this video is not sponsored by Generation. Generation's doing just fine. They don't need my help. I saw these on the irishflutestore.com, bought them because I thought it would be interesting. Caveat number two, this video is not sponsored by the Irish Flute Store. You should definitely check them out if you're remotely interested in Irish flutes or tin whistles. They got great stuff. Links in the description. Just check them out, they're cool. With that out of the way, what's the big deal? Why are fairly cheap, mass-produced instruments being sold at a, I would say, very reputable consignment shop, Irish music consignment shop? Well, the reason is because there's a bit of a lore to generations in general, I would say, but specifically the older ones, dating back to the 80s and 90s, and before, of course, but round about that time, there was a consensus that the manufacturing process changed for the worse. That's what we're going to find out if it's true. Caveat number three involves a bit of a history lesson. Used to be when you'd walk into any music shop, you'd see just a rack of generations and whistles. Or like in a little bowl or something. There'd be a lot of them, is the point. And you'd go out, you'd try about a dozen of them. And you'd play them, you'd run a few tunes through and see how they work. And you'd pick the best one of the bunch. And one out of that dozen might be spectacular. One out of that dozen is probably kind of unplayable, and the rest are just fine. They're mass-produced, so they're fine. With better understanding of stuff like germs, we don't really do that anymore. You can still buy something online, try it, send it back, and go through the process that way, but the days of a try-it-as-you-go situation, long gone. Point is, what I'm hoping is that these whistles have already gone through that process, that vetting process, so to speak, and that these might be some of the best of the best. Let's find out. Wow. 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 All right, before I get too carried away, let's do a little bit more of a scientific approach here. Okay, very controlled, not nearly the amount of grit that I'm used to from the generations. For example, certain notes in there really have that bite. Now, again, caveat, a lot of people really like that. That's one of the sounds that they appreciate out of the generation. So there's that. Me, it always sounds like it's about to break. Whereas this, I don't know, it feels more controlled is what it is. The main way you can tell the difference between the old and the new generations here is the seam that you get down the old mouthpiece. It's also on the bottom. From a feel standpoint, I kind of prefer the new one. I prefer that smooth, feel to it, which I assume is why they made the change. It just seems like it fits a bit better. I would probably get used to it, and I'd be okay with it for the improvement of the tone. Let's see how the brass one sounds. This is nickel here. Let's see how the brass one sounds. I've got a brass D as well. In fact, I've got two of them in this allotment. At first I was going to say it's grittier, but that could have been me. Yeah, very smooth and kind of controlled. It looks, the sticker is really beat to hell. Whistle looks beat to hell, which is a good sign because that usually means it was played. So that's always good. Yeah, very nice. This other D whistle here looks slightly less beat up. I don't know. A lot of action around the E also. I don't know. Maybe it got played as well. Let's see. Wow. This one sounds more like what I remember. I even broke the glue on this one. Oh, wow, okay. That's very, hasn't really been played as much, I would say. Feels a bit more raspy, a bit more old school. little bit more of that buzz to it. Still very controllable, I would say. Quick supercut, jumping through all 4 of these. I'm going to start with a new one just for, let's call it a control. What do you think? Do you have a preference? Anything jump out at you? I don't know if it was because it happened to be the first one that I grabbed, or maybe because I'm just more used to playing nickel generations in general. This is the one that really sings, as far as I can tell. What it reminded me of as soon as I started playing it was this Freeman Tweaked whistle. Also the blue mouthpiece. Ooh, that one was way flat. Still has a lot of that similar characteristic, I think. Which would kind of make sense. That's sort of the sound that Jerry was, as I understand it anyway, trying to replicate. Trying to get that classic generation sound. Now, I also got 2 B-flat whistles. Now, there's a bit more lore associated with Generation B-flat specifically. That's the one that everybody always says is the greatest of the generations. I'm not sure I agree with that. I don't know. Jury's probably still out. But I'm curious to try out a couple of these and then compare them to my, my Control, the brand new generation. Very nice. It's very, very smooth. And I do feel it's got a bit more of that, I don't know, that riding on a razor's edge of chaos and it all falling apart, but yet it not falling apart because it is still very controllable. Where it's got a bit of that, I'm going to break, but it doesn't. You know, it's controllable. I do think that the new B-flat holds up rather well. In fact, might even have a bit more power, a bit more punch, without sacrificing a whole lot of tone. I do think this really stacks up better than I would have expected. For even more apples to apples comparison, I have a new brass C. Oh, that's a C. This is an old school C. I do have a new C whistle as well that we can compare to here. Wow. That's really nice. Compared to the relatively recent one anyway. Tuning issues aside. Yeah, it feels unstable. Unstable? Raspy and lacking in confidence. Where this, yeah, I really feel like I've kind of got it under control. And then I've got my new nemesis for sure. This is an F whistle. If you followed my channel at all, it's come up a time or two about high G, high F whistles, how I don't play them, I don't have any. The tone is actually really nice. The problem that I've got with these, and any whistle this size, is this. I've got, I guess, rather large fingers. I have literal nightmares, a recurring nightmare, in fact, of being on stage doing a gig and this happens and I can't get my fingers on the whistle. This is literal nightmare fuel. That being said, if you ever want to put yourself through this sort of misery, this is a good way to go. All right, so screenshot this because you'll probably never see it again on this channel. We're gonna put that over here, probably never to be touched again, but I'm glad I have it should the need arise. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to try these out, and I'm curious what y'all think about it. Does anybody have old generation whistles. Have you done the same experiment? Have you tried this yourselves? Can you hear a difference coming over the YouTube channel? Hopefully the sound quality is decent enough you can hear a difference. I can certainly hear a difference, and I can feel a difference when I play it. They just feel confidence inspiring, I think is the right way to put it. That's what it sounds like to me. That's how it feels to me. So let me know what y'all think. Thanks to the Irish Flute Store for making these available. I'm glad y'all tracked them down. Check those guys out. I'll see y'all in the next one. Cheers.